Napoleon Bonaparte, the general who brought Europe to its knees. He conquered kings, crowned himself emperor, and seemed unstoppable. But his greatest defeat didn't happen on a battlefield. It happened in a banker's office. Because while Napoleon was busy fighting wars with soldiers and cannons, someone else was fighting a quieter war with couriers, coins, and coded letters. This isn't a story about muskets and cavalry. It's the story of how one family, the Rothschilds, built a financial network so powerful it could outmaneuver an emperor. This story proves that in the modern world, the real weapon is money. When you think of empire, you think of flags, armies, and thrones. But empires are expensive. Every bullet, every cannon, every ship, it all costs gold. And in the early 1800s, gold didn't just buy victory. It decided who could even stay in the fight. This is the moment when finance became the secret engine of power, and when a family from a cramped street in Frankfurt rewired that engine forever. 2 centuries later, the pattern still holds. Wars change, technology changes, but control over the flow of money remains the ultimate advantage. Chapter 1. From the Ghetto to the Gold Game. Frankfurt, 1744. The Judingas. Narrow, smoky, and overcrowded. The streets so tight 2 carts could barely pass, lined with workshops and the smell of tanneries. This is where Mayor Amschel Rothschild was born, into laws that said where he could live, what he could own, and who he could work for. But Mayer had something the rules couldn't touch: curiosity. He started small, trading rare coins, tokens of history that brought him face to face with collectors, princes, and aristocrats. Each coin was a ticket into rooms he was never supposed to enter. Among those he impressed was Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse, one of the wealthiest men in Europe. Mayer became his financial agent, handling investments and loans. But he wasn't satisfied with serving one noble. He realized real power came from systems, not patrons. If he could master the machinery of money itself, exchange, credit, communication, he could serve everyone and answer to no one. He wasn't building a business. He was designing an empire that wouldn't need armies. Chapter 2. The 5 Arrows. Mayer Amschel had 5 sons and one brilliant idea. Instead of keeping them close, he launched them like arrows across Europe. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt, Salomon went to Vienna, Karl to Naples, James to Paris, and Nathan, the boldest, to London. 5 brothers, 5 capitals, 1 network. They communicated through private couriers carrying coded letters, faster than any king's messenger, more reliable than any government. While Europe's nations were torn apart by wars and borders, the Rothschilds operated as one body. Information flowed through them like blood through veins. And in a world where knowing first meant winning, that network became their super weapon. Chapter 3. Napoleon's War Machine. By 1806, Napoleon Bonaparte ruled most of Europe. But his most dangerous enemy wasn't on land. It was the British Empire, still standing thanks to its navy and its money. To crush Britain, Napoleon built the Continental system, an economic blockade meant to choke British trade and bankrupt its treasury. It almost worked. Britain's allies, Austria, Prussia, Russia, were starving for funds. The British government had gold, but it was trapped on an island. Getting it to their armies on the continent meant running Napoleon's blockade, impossible for ordinary merchants. So they turned to Nathan Mayer Rothschild, a German Jewish banker in London with a reputation for speed, secrecy, and success. His family's 5-city network could do what no army could: move gold across hostile borders, invisible and untouchable. Chapter 4. Smuggling gold through a continent at war. The mission: deliver a fortune in gold to the Duke of Wellington's army in Spain, the last line against Napoleon, and do it without being caught. Nathan directed the operation from London like a general commanding troops. His brothers bought gold discreetly across Europe, hiding shipments inside barrels, under false manifests, and even in fishing boats. Every journey was a gamble. If the French intercepted them, it wasn't just the gold at risk, it was the Rothschild network itself. Couriers slipped through borders at night, guided by trusted agents who knew every back road. Wagons rolled through rain and mud, carrying crates that could decide the fate of nations. And it worked. Wellington's army, once on the brink of collapse, was suddenly flush with pay. The British war machine roared back to life. By 1815, the Rothschilds had arranged nearly £10 million in subsidy loans, enough to keep entire coalitions in the fight. They weren't soldiers, but they were financing every soldier who stood against Napoleon. Chapter 5. Waterloo. The Power of Information. The 18th of June 1815, Waterloo. The battle that would decide Europe's future. In London, chaos. The stock exchange buzzed with rumors. No telegraphs, no radio, just fear. If Napoleon won, British bonds would crash. If he lost, they'd soar. Nathan Rothschild waited, not for rumors, but for his couriers. His network reached him days before the official government messenger. He knew Wellington had won. But knowing wasn't enough. Acting was everything. The legend says he spread lies of a British defeat to crash the market, then bought it all back for pennies. It's a dramatic story, and mostly myth. The truth is sharper. He didn't need to lie. The market was already drowning in panic. While others sold in fear, Nathan bought with certainty. When the official news hit, prices skyrocketed. The Rothschilds made a fortune, not by trickery, but by owning the fastest information network in Europe. They proved that in modern warfare, the first victory belongs to the one who knows first. Chapter 6. Aftermath and Legacy. With Napoleon defeated, the Rothschilds did more than count profits. They became the backbone of Europe's new financial order. They financed Prussia's reconstruction with a £5 million loan in 1818. They stabilized the Bank of England during the 1825 crisis by supplying gold when the nation's reserves ran dry. When governments needed cash, they called the Rothschilds, not the other way around. From 5 brothers and a handful of couriers, they had built a machine that moved money faster than empires could move armies. Their family crest bore 5 arrows, one for each brother, bound together by the motto Concordia, Integritas, Industria, Harmony, Integrity, Industry. They didn't conquer territory. They conquered trust. And trust, in finance, is power. By the mid-19th century, the Rothschild name was synonymous with banking itself, funding railroads, governments, and industries that defined the modern age. Chapter 7. The Echo. So did the Rothschilds defeat Napoleon. Not alone, but without them, his enemies might never have paid their armies long enough to win. They showed that the true battlefield of the modern world isn't the field of war, it's the flow of capital. Napoleon had armies. The Rothschilds had information. And in the end, information won.